Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, I know from my experience as a trial attorney that there was almost zero training on how to negotiate, not in law school. I had to learn it from my colleagues or by doing it myself. Are people asking these days, what is the value of a buyer's agent?
They are. They're asking more and more. They're like, wait, I got to pay for that. And you know, it's weird. They were paying for it before this rule change with the National Association of Realtors, but it was the listing agent's commission. And out of that, the listing agent would pay the buyer's agent, right? But that all changed. And now the buyer's agent commission is negotiated in the contract. So it does beg the question, what is it that they do? Okay. And in many cases, I have a hard time answering that question. I mean, just last week, I put a home under contract where the agent didn't even show the house. I had an open house. I was there. I was the one that sold the house, in my view. And then this guy starts, giving me what for about that I'm supposed to answer him on a Saturday night. I'm like, I got to go now because if I don't, I'm not going to be very nice. But, just crazy stuff that goes on. Everybody defines their own job in their own way. And it is kind of mysterious. So you never know what to expect. The other thing that happens is these quote buyer's agents that are supposed to represent the buyer. Once they get a contract, they completely abdicate the whole entire job to a transaction coordinator, which does not have any kind of definition. It is not regulated by the state. It is an admin person. I don't really know what they do. All I know is I'm getting texts and calls and emergency requests to schedule an inspection on a Sunday night. And I'm just like, stop. I'm not going to work on Sundays, and especially not on Sunday night, solely because you and your admin assistant didn't plan ahead. And even though I send out this inspection policy and I tell them, all right, this is how we do business, please contact me during business hours. I mean, think about it. Do lawyers work after business hours, Richard? I don't know.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I think it depends on the lawyer. And that's why a lot of what you talk about is so important because experience, there's no replacing experience. You've been doing this for a couple of decades. There's
Oh,
no
yeah.
replacement for that. You can't teach that in any type of a real estate course or some sort of a symposium or seminar.
Yeah. So kind of the history behind buyer agency. When I first got licensed in the 90s, it was a relatively new concept. It basically was, okay, before the seller pays the commission. So everybody was focused on getting the seller's house sold, right? And the seller would pay the fee to the listing agent and the buyer's agent. So the whole idea of splitting that fee up was to leverage all the rest of the agents out there with buyers, right? But technology just rolled over the real estate industry. And I don't think they even notice it now. And so what happens is all these tech companies came in and said, well, we can create a better mousetrap than the 1,500 different MLSs in the country that don't talk to each other and market directly to buyers. And we're using the listings that are putting these old, antiquated MLS systems. And so what happened is they just overtook the industry. Now they're selling buyer leads to agents, and that's where the buyers go. That is where the buyers go, is to these tech companies. They don't search in the multiple listing service, at least not very often. It's just a place where agents hang out and get information. So at the end of the day, there's some rules, there's some ethics rules, and there's this and that of what you can and can't do. And some of them make sense, some of them don't. But the agents are paid not on performance, but on bringing the buyer, solely that. So I had a couple years ago, I had a listing. This was kind of during the boom, young couple selling this house. They were moving because the HOA was giving them a hard time about parking his commercial vehicle on his own driveway. And so we went on the market. We got it under contract, and the agent reached out to schedule the inspection. And I got on the phone with her. I said, this was during COVID. I said, I want to make sure that you're going to be there for the inspection with the buyer because both Mr. and Mrs. Seller are working and there's a beautiful teenage daughter home alone. And she goes, "Oh, don't worry. Tell the kiddo I'll be there." And I said, "Okay, great." But I didn't trust her. I sent my admin staff. Sure enough, we get there at 9 in the morning. The digital lockbox, which only licensed agents can open, was opened. Key was gone, two strange men in the house, and the agent wasn't there. She came and opened the door and left. So I called her and said, I asked you to be there at that inspection and you weren't there. And her answer was, well, I forgot I had a closing. I'm like, nobody forgets closings. That's payday for us. And she's like, well, I just had to go. I'm like, okay, well, how would you feel if some agent let two strange men in your house with a teenage daughter home alone? How would you like that? And her answer to me was, why are you being so mean to me? So I had posted in the MLS, if you do these things, I'm going to whack money off the commission. So I did. I whacked money off the commission at closing. Oh my God, you thought I'd killed somebody. The broker goes to red alert. They start yelling at me, "You can't do that." And I said, "Fine, take me to arbitration. I can't wait to tell this story in front of your peers. Please do it." So they have 180 days to file that. They never filed it. Finally, the title company got tired of holding $1,000 and they did release the money and I just gave it to the seller. But, I would love to be able to tie, the commission to performance because you never know what you're going to get. Just the other day, I had an agent on the inspection brought in, it was an older house, so they wanted to check the sewer line, which is fine. But in my inspection policy, it's if you're going to do that, you need to bring in a licensed plumber. Did they bring a licensed plumber? No, they brought a sewer excavation company to check out the sewer line. Well, what do you think they're going to find? What do you think they're in the business of doing, which is tearing out sewer lines and replacing it? I said, that seems like a conflict of interest. Why are you doing that? Well, I always do it that way. And the problem is they train. And on top of that, they drew this paint in the front yard. So the seller actually thought they were going to come back the next day and dig holes. And I'm like, whoa, stop. we don't have any agreement to do any of that stuff. But my point is, there is no job description for a real estate agent, either a listing agent or a buyer's agent. It doesn't exist. So everybody just makes up the rules as they go along. And they kind of embed into you with the training, the very limited 1-month training to be a real estate agent, that if you sign on to be a quote fiduciary, an advocate for your client, your job is to get stuff for the client. That's what they think. And sometimes the get stuff motivation actually gets in the way of the buyer getting in the house, which is totally crazy because they blow up the deal, just like what happened last week. They blew up the deal to get stuff and they almost caused that buyer to not get the house. So I don't know what they do, except for they should be there for all of the activities for the agents. Some of the agents actually don't want to go to the inspection. I've had them tell me in writing, this one guy was going to make $20,000 for going to a 1-hour open house to show his buyer, writing a 10-minute contract. And then he sends me an email and says, well, can't you just give out the combo to the unlicensed, unqualified inspector for 3 hours in an occupied home? Because it's just a waste of my time to go to an inspection. I'm like, dude, you're going to make over $20,000 and you can't be bothered to spend a cumulus amount of maybe 4 or 5 hours with this one buyer. Who doesn't want that gig? So it's insanity right now. And it's my job, if I'm representing the seller, to protect them from the craziness as best I can. That's my best summary of what a buyer agent does or doesn't do, because once they get a contract, okay, we got a contract, then they do an inspection. Oh, we're going to ask for stuff. Now I'm getting more stuff. And if I don't get more stuff, I'm going to terminate. And then they do an appraisal. And if the appraisal doesn't come in the way they want, or if we need repairs to satisfy the lender, we got to get more stuff from the seller. And then if I don't get an extension, if my lender messes up and can't close on time, they send this form that the Division of Real Estate created that said, if you don't give me an extension, we're walking 2 days before closing after the seller's already moved out. So it's insanity. I would love to tie it to performance. I'm sure I'll never pull it off in my career, but that's the kind of stuff I go through. So, Richard, that's my job, to protect people.
And you do a great job. It's a fiduciary relationship. You understand that. Not everyone does. Unfortunately, you're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900. Barb, we're talking about negotiating the sale. What can you tell the sellers on how to win during those negotiations?
Well, I mean, they have to have a plan and a backup plan, essentially. Some people want speed of sale. Some people are not in a hurry to sell. So if they're willing to walk away, there's nothing wrong with that. But you just have to have a plan in your mind of what you will and will not accept. And if the buyer doesn't want that, okay, we'll go get another buyer. So we'll sit down and we actually do a spreadsheet of 3 different columns of different options so they can think about it and discuss it and make the best choice for them. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. This is what we do every day, every week, 719-301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Time for your favorite portion of the program. Mine as well. Hot new listings. What do you have this week, Barb?
Well, Richard, I have a really cool home in Woodland Park, very close to the hospital, priced at $3,099. A gorgeous rancher on Rushmore, in the low threes. A fabulous home on 5 acres on Alta Plaza. Beautiful home in Briargate in the mid fours. Coming up this week, a great fourplex would be, you could actually live in it and rent the rest out and basically get your mortgage paid for. Really cool historic property up in Cripple Creek. This one featured, we've got 2 of them featured this weekend. One of them being held open from 11:30 to 12:30, 303 Montclair Street. Absolutely gorgeous remodeled home. And another one with a attached 2-car and massive man cave. Can I say that? Man cave workshop. 1240 Big Valley Drive. Beautiful rock rimmon home. That one's priced in the low 7s. Fabulous home on Willamette, completely remodeled. Gorgeous home on Royal Troon down in Pueblo. Another great house with a 3-car garage in Peyton on Beckham Street at 505. Stunning home in Broadmoor Bluffs. Backs to property owned by NORAD, so it will never be built on, in the upper 6s. And an absolutely beautiful, eye-watering, gorgeous custom home on Open Sky in prestigious High Forest Ranch, priced at $2.19 million. Give us a call. We also have lots and more properties coming soon all the time. Go to barbhasthebuyers.com.
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. It airs every Saturday from 11 o'clock, right after Cudlow. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. You can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Has the Buyers, or listen to the podcast on all of the popular podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thank you for listening this week. To reach out to Barb, again, that number is 719-301-3900. Thanks for listening. Barb, you have a great extended weekend. We'll talk to you next week.